I personally don't really care about racism. Now, for many people, that sounds like blasphemy because, as an African American, a black person, whatever you want to call it, racism and fighting systemic racism or discrimination has been a fabric of black African American identity. Many of our media and culture revolves around racism in America's history between whites and blacks. And denying a lot of that or not caring about the history that a lot of black people went through is kind of seen as like you're betraying your own people or you don't care about your own people. Now, I come from a mainly black conscious family. My heritage is Jamaican, and a lot of my family is aware of racism and things that have been done against black people. My biological father is a Rastafarian, and he often talks about racism and what whites have done. So I was aware of it growing up, but it didn't really affect me as much. Now, a lot of people's personal experiences depend on the area you live in, kind of like your social economic background. Because what I find mainly with racism, at least in modern times, it's less about skin color and more about how your economic status is. A lot of rich people will tell you that when people are rich, they don't really care about race. They say racism is like a belief for poor people. Not saying that there aren't racist elites out there. Of course they are, but I believe it's more so social, economical, and cultural issues. Me growing up, I've never had a problem with white people. I've never had a problem with Hispanics. I've actually had friends of all kind of ethnicities and colors. And it's not like I grew up in the suburbs or in a good part of town. I actually grew up in a lot of poor areas, sometimes very close to the ghetto. I grew up in a single mother household. Oftentimes we had nothing to eat. Oftentimes the light cut off, the water cut off. I had no silver spoon. I think also because of my Caribbean heritage, there is some differences between Caribbean Americans and African Americans. I think for one, Caribbean culture is a bit more structured. We're taught from a very young age to respect our elders and to not talk against our, older folks or people in authority. So with that being said, I think that when we do come to America, even though we may see certain things, we still understand respect, authority, and that if you want respect, you got to give respect. So you can say I was raised with a very much immigrant mentality. It was very much evident in how I was raised, even in the times I lived in the hood or very not good areas. My attitude and temperament was different from mainly a lot of African Americans. I was well-mannered, respectful, while a lot of my peers were very rebellious. They cursed a lot, often got into a lot of bad activities. So I say that to say that when I interacted with non-black people, it was a very smooth experience because I believe how my worldview was shaped. I've never faced racism from a white person, and I've been around all kinds of white people. I've been around white trash. I've been around homeless whites. I've been around very prestigious, high income whites. I've been around European whites, like straight from Europe. And generally, in my experience, if you treat people well, they treat you well, or if you leave people alone, they leave you alone. I've also had many Hispanic friends, especially during middle school and high school. So I haven't faced racism with Hispanics either. My first girlfriend was Asian, and I've been to Japan twice, as some of you guys know. And Asians have always had a soft spot for me, which if I was to compare certain communities, the black community and the Asian community are not that close compared to other groups. So what I'm basically setting up is that I've mainly had more negative experiences with my own people than other races. But I think also that's because of my mentality. I'm very international, cultured. I've been to a few countries. I've been to Cuba, I've been to Poland, I've been to Turkey, I've been to Japan. So I guess my worldview is bigger than my backyard. I guess that's why I haven't cared about racism as much the majority of my life, because I don't have a very limited or biased perspective that a lot of other blacks do. Now, I'm not saying racism doesn't exist or that people aren't discriminated against nowadays. Everyone knows about slavery, segregation, Jim Crow, all of that. But I really believe that if you want to be successful, it's really up to you. I don't believe that there is necessarily anything that can stop you from being successful. There are hurdles, yes, and depending where you live, you may face certain issues. I think ultimately, if you want to be successful in life, if you want to have the American dream, that's all on you. I do believe their system is in place to keep black people, but majority low income people thinking a certain way. I do believe there are narratives in place to keep us under control. I'm very aware that the American history that we're taught in public schools is oftentimes wrong or truth mixed with lies. Like, I love Thomas Sowell. One book I recommend is Black Rednecks and White Liberals. I believe that's the name of the book. I've learned more from that book than my whole time in American history taught in public schools. So I'm of the belief that racism may exist, but it can't stop you if you choose not to let it stop you. And I think that there are more problems in the black community that hold us back than an external force that's trying to weigh us down. But for the sake of argument, let's say there was an external force that was trying to hold us down. If you have a whole culture that is shattered by not having fathers in the home, many black children are raised by single mothers. Out of wedlock babies are more than 70%, 80% in some areas. We have a very rebellious culture stemming from our broken families. I just personally think if the white man is trying to put you down, shouldn't your house be in order first so you know how to fight the white man when he comes after you? And because I'm so international, I've lived in places outside of my own backyard. I guess my worldview is more shaped by how people live than necessarily their skin color. Now, I've had racist encounters before, but that was mainly, I find, with Indian people or people of Indian descent. There's one Indian guy I lived with who was extremely racist, and that was my first prominent racial experience. I will admit for a time I didn't like Indians, but it was kind of contradictory because I've also had very, very good Indian friends. So I just had to believe that if you are racist or you're discriminating against people, it may be because of certain experiences you've had or because there's a certain pattern of behavior. But regardless, I think being racist means that you're just trying to find ways to feel like you're better than people. I believe you can acknowledge a people's flaws without feeling you're better than them. But irregardless, to finish up this video, I think it's more about your mindset. Everyone has hurdles they have to face. You're too ugly, you don't have enough money, you lived in a poor country, you were born in a poor country, you didn't have both parents in your life, your parents are divorced, you had a murder in the family, you lost a loved one. Everyone goes through some kind of hurdle. Question is, what are you going to do to overcome it? And I'm of the belief that you have to sweep off your own porch before you complain about the world. If systemic racism does exist, is your culture stable enough to fight it? It makes no sense trying to fight the world and come to your own home and have to fight the people within your own home. That will never work. But to sum up, I've never experienced prominent racism besides, a few from some Indian people. I think because of my international perspective, because I've been around a lot of people and I've traveled a lot, I think my worldview is shaped by my exposure to other groups of people. That I know racism is just a belief of poor people or uneducated people. If I want something done, if I want to accomplish a goal, I will not let anything stop me from accomplishing that goal, even if it's systematic racism. So that's my quick thoughts on that topic. If you would like me to elaborate more on certain issues concerning racism or the Black experience, I'd be more than welcome to do that. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you enjoyed the video, hit that bell as well to get notified whenever I post a video. Follow me on Twitter. The names are on the screen. Also, the links will be down below. Here's some other videos you can check out. Peace.